Hey everybody, today I want to talk about special abilities in Dead Ahead. More specifically, I want to go over 5 characters that I think have the best special abilities in the game in no particular order, as well as go over 5 characters who I think have terrible special abilities and what I personally would do to change that to balance it out, as well as 5 characters whose special abilities I think are absolutely necessary in order for them to function properly or function in their role properly. So let's start by going over the 5 characters who I think have the best special abilities in the game. This is not a top 5 list, so I'm not going to do any kind of countdown. I think the viability of these abilities is dependent on the level and the team composition, the faction and whatnot. There's a lot of variance there, so I'm not going to do any kind of top 5-ish. This is just, in random order. However, if I were to pick a number 1 ability, I would probably start with the Agents, which is first on my list. Their special ability, once unlocked, is that they count as 2 unique units for team powers. This is really powerful, both on the field and off. So on the field, they're always immediately available out the door right away, meaning you can send them out and then the next police officer you send out, usually the rogue, will get that 50% health shield right away. Off the field, it's great on your roster in that if you want the full 5-for-5 policeman faction bonus, you only need to have them on your faction roster, as well as just 3 others for the 5-5 bonus, giving you 2 extra spaces instead of 1, either support items or characters of a different faction or whatever it is you're going to come up with. So all in all, very good, very strong. Next on my list is the Cashier. And it kind of sucks in that the Cashier is very exclusive. He's only available during the Christmas event, I believe. But his special ability is his Bonkers. So his special ability, once unlocked, is that his critical attacks deal 4 times more damage than regular attacks. So this makes him the hardest hitting melee DPSer in the game. He just does bonkers damage. It puts his crit damage at a fixed 300%, meaning that items will not alter this number. So there's no point, you can't stack more crit damage on top of that. But what that does do is it enables you to beef up his crit chance or beef up his melee attack. You you substitute that and you start going in for other areas that'll play into that crit damage. As you can see here, I actually have him right now with the Lucky Guy bonus perk because I was using him for Metro. I just find him a little more sticky with that item set bonus, which is what I wanted. But in most situations, you're going to want to use Gentleman for him. That just makes the most amount of sense. And when he does have Gentleman item set bonuses, he's going to be critting for upwards of 2,000 or more. So yeah, he's just a super hard hitter. The caveat, however, if you don't have Cashier, you ought to know his crit strikes are pretty slow. He has a slow swing. Not as slow as Turbo, but pretty slow. He's got his own little bit of problems, but he's still a very good character to have. Anyways, moving on. Next I have is the Mechanic. And the Mechanic's got an excellent special ability, very necessary for him. His special ability, once unlocked, is that if an enemy dies after a sledgehammer attack, he uses the sledgehammer in the following attack as well. This completely changes his character, whereas he'd rush out with his sledgehammer, hit the enemy once, and he starts attacking with his wrench. This does now is that if he hits the enemy and he kills it with his sledgehammer, he continues to use his sledgehammer again. He never loses his sledgehammer unless his hit does not kill the enemy, unless it's a non-lethal blow. What this allows him to do is just kind of run through and storm through and just chain kill weaker enemies or enemies that he's able to one-shot very easily, very well. Personally, I find that he's great against insectoids. He can one-shot those creatures and they're a bit of a pain. He's also the only melee character that can attack and kill the blue spheres as well without turning into a zombie. You could say that with the weaker blue spheres, Carol can do this as well, but it's a lot more tricky with her because her upfront damage isn't as high as the Mechanic's. Next on the list I have is Paramedic Nancy, and I really like Nancy as a unit. Her special ability, once it's unlocked, is that units don't turn into zombies after reanimation. That's kind of a poor choice of words they use there. I think what they really mean is that once she revives a character on the field, if they die again, they won't turn into a zombie. This is essential with some of her factions, particularly with the rednecks, because you're just sending out so many rednecks to die in the field. She gets out there, she revives them, great, they're back at it again, and then when they die the second time, they won't turn into a zombie to attack you, and that's pretty important. All in all, really good. That special ability by itself right there is the 2-man college faction bonus. So all in all, very powerful to have. Last on my list is Maria. And Maria has a great special ability. Once it's unlocked, it increases the accuracy of 2 nearby allies by 30% and their range damage by 10%. This is a fantastic ability, and it completely changes your character from that of a DPS, range DPS, to that of a DPS / range support unit as well. This aura does have its limitations. It won't reach back as far as where Polina stands in most cases, and sometimes Charlotte will be out of range as well. But all other range DPS will be in range of that aura buff that she gives, and it's just fantastic to have, and all in all, makes her a very good, worthwhile support unit. Moving on to 5 characters who I think have terrible special abilities, and what I would do to sort of balance that out and change them. First on my list is Dr. Norman. He is the cryomancer, the guy at the nitrogen tank, scientist, and his special ability, I wish I never purchased it. He has a probability of 50% to throw a nitrogen tank upon death. More often than not, I'd see him do this. I swear it's like 100%. Anyhow, at the moment, actually, it's kind of funny at the moment because nitrogen right now, as of this video, is bugged and it's not freezing enemies. And instead what's happening is that when enemies hit the tank, it causes a grenade-sized explosion. But it's not freezing anything. It just keeps causing explosions each time the enemy hits it, which is kind of funny. Anyhow, under normal circumstances, I've spoken about this before, it's a terrible special ability to have because it sabotages your own team. Dr. Norman usually stands between your range units and your melee units because he's a shotgunner. And when he dies, he drops that nitro tank. The nitro tank goes off right away and it freezes all of your characters in the vicinity of its radius, and it just screws you over. So that's terrible. Maybe you could rework it where he throws it really far, but even then, anytime that happens, you're just taking a chance, if you can't control it, of it hitting your own characters. Instead, I think what I would do is I would just do something very simple and give him a speed bonus. I would give him a +3, maybe a +2 speed bonus. He's pretty slow. I think his speed is 5 right now. A speed bonus of 3 puts him up to 8. That means he's going to move as fast as the agents are going to move. So kind of simple, but then at least he's not destructive on the field. Next on my list is Builder Abby, and her special ability is that she continues to shoot the machine gun after taking damage. This ability is pretty lackluster for 2 reasons. One is that she has a very low health pool, and she usually just gets one shot by enemies anyways. 2, the only upside to the ability is that it's basically for PvP. She might take a bullet or 2 and she would still be able to keep shooting out her machine gun. But in most in most situations though, it's no good. I would just change it to something like extending her machine gun firing time by 2 seconds. It just gives her a very minimal amount of more DPS. It's a great one to have though, because it plays into her primary strength, and that's how I would balance that out there. Next on the list is Cap. Cap's a little bit confusing. It's not worded great, but anyhow, his special ability once unlocked is that all SWAT units gain a reload speed bonus. And as far as I know, what they mean by this is that core TMF team member. So it's not just SWAT, the machine gunner, but also the flamethrower as well. However, it doesn't matter. The reload speed bonus is very minimal. You can't even really notice it. And you know, you're just not seeing that happen. So that's for starters. The impact is very low. The other bad side about this is that it's a special ability that's only affecting, you know, 2 characters in the game, and it has nothing to do with him or anyone else. So it requires, in order for that special ability to be of any use, it requires that you have the other TMF team members on your roster, which in his case is kind of annoying because he has a college skin. And so, you know, it just isolates him. Anyhow, it doesn't do anything for him, and in all likelihood, it's not going to do anything for anyone else unless it's the SWAT or the flamethrower. How I would change that is I would do something like maybe the boosted allies get 20 to 30% more speed. That might be a little bit broken though. Or I would say he can boost allies while firing. So currently when he does his boost, he does that like that go, go, go animation and he stops firing. So that sort of takes away his DPS and sort of relegates him to being this flag carrier or drummer boy of the group, where he's just giving morale boosts all the time, but he's not actually doing any DPS. So I'd rather he just keeps firing as well as boosting units at the same time. Or maybe better yet, just have it so that all units, not just the TMF team members, but all units get a reload speed bonus. So, you know, there's that too. Next up is Juggernaut. And Juggernaut's special ability, once unlocked, is that crit damage is increased by 5% for each kill. Given that Juggernaut's base crit chance is 20%, this might seem okay, but it's not. Juggernaut is a slow swinger. Juggernaut has to get the kill on it, and really, in order for you to really start seeing anything, you think of it like this. Juggernaut kills 5 people, that's now 25% crit damage bonus. He's got to kill 5 people first. By the time he's done that, if he does that, he's close to death. So it's just, it doesn't have a very a large impact on the field, and it's just too slow rolling. You know, it doesn't ramp up fast enough to make a difference. So I would change that to something that makes him more tanky. So I would give him something like a 30%, like a minor melee damage reduction bonus. 30% melee damage reduction or 25%, just something that makes him more tanky against melee attackers would be the one that I would go with there. Last on the list is Light Soldier, and it's a little bit confusing because it actually doesn't do anything. Light Soldier's special ability, once it's unlocked, is that crit damage is increased by 10% each 60 points of charisma. And while that might sound interesting on paper at first, you think, oh, I'll dump all this charisma into Light Soldier and get the crit damage up. The problem is that the 2 numbers don't weigh in well with each other. 10% is nothing against 60 points of charisma. You're just, if you want to go for crit damage on the Light Soldier, you're just so much better off just getting items that have crit damage on it. So you think if you have an item that has a crit damage increase of just say 20%, which is not much, well, that equates to 120 points of charisma, which is the equivalent of like 2 or 3 items. So it's not very good. It doesn't equal very well to what you need, and you're just better off just stacking regular crit damage instead of charisma. If I were to change it, I would give him something interesting since he's on the IF team. He does have other skins, like he's got a scientist skin as well as a builder skin. I would do something like just let him have 50% more healing from the med packs. That would be pretty interesting to have. It doesn't make it broken or anything, and better yet, it makes the med pack more useful and more in tune with him. Lastly, when it comes to special abilities, I want to go over 5 characters who I feel absolutely need to have their special ability in order to function well, or even just function. And this was actually a really hard list to come up with, much harder than the other 2 categories, because there's just so many characters who really benefit or absolutely need their special ability. But I've tried to kind of make it as fair as I could. So to start off with my list is the flamethrower. And this guy had his special ability reworked not too long ago, where it went from a +2 to speed to now his special ability, once unlocked, is that he ignores 50% of the enemy's fire resistance. For him, this is just absolutely crucial in the later stages of the game, where you come up against enemies that are fireproof, especially in location 7. Whereas before he was completely useless, he didn't do any damage to these enemies. Now he does. With his Patriot skin and the faction bonuses, he can do regular damage to those enemies. So yeah, this is just, you need the special ability in order for Flamethrower to be of any real use in the more advanced stages of the game. Pepper's special ability is also a big game changer for her character. Once unlocked, she will do the same boost that Cap does. She boosts all allied units on the field. However, she only does it once. So once she exits out the bus, she kind of blows this kiss to everybody and then starts firing and does the rest of, what she does. This is great, and the reason why is because prior to this ability, Pepper is kind of rather lackluster. She doesn't have a huge impact on the field. She's not a great DPSer. She is kind of sticky with her evasion rolls and everything, but you want to make sure that your DPS, your range units, are actually making a difference. And with this, she becomes range DPS poorly, but also a pretty good support unit too. So all in all, I would say this is a great ability to have. She's cheaper than Cap, and if you're someone who wants these speed boosts, this is the character to go with. Up next is the Rogue, and this was kind of a tricky one. This got nerfed a while back. It used to be he could have 100% bullet resist, but they've since changed it. Now, his special ability, once it's unlocked, is that he gains 0.9% bullet resistance for each point of agility. It's kind of a tricky one in that you get all the way up to 100 agility, and he'll get 90% bullet resistance instead of the 100% he used to get before. This was definitely 100% in response to the corn farm special event, where people were just able to send him out in the corn farm with his TMF skin, and he had the explosion resistance, he was bulletproof, he would just absolutely cut that place down to pieces real fast. Now instead he can get shredded down through grenades as well as through the machine gun in time, so it balances itself out. I get it. It's still very much necessary, especially in PvP skirmish, but there are enough enemies in the game where it's useful if you play the Metro and if you do the special events as well, like the corn farm. So yeah, it still has a role to play. It might not be the most necessary form, but I'd say it's good enough. You will always see Rogue on a PvP team, and he's just so strong as a unit anyways that you really want this special ability just to sort of complete his character, so to speak. Sniper Paulina is next on my list, and this one is more skirmish based than it is PvE based, but I thought I'd put it in there anyways just because it's super important to have, and it does have PvE applications as well. Her special ability is that once it's unlocked, she ignores 40% of the enemy's bullet resistance. That's great. That is almost on par with what the tactical gear set does, item set bonus does, and for PvP, this makes it absolutely necessary to have this. A Paulina on the opposing team that doesn't have this unlocked is just completely useless, since everyone on their skirmish teams are more or less bulletproof, or bullet resistant, I should say. So in order for her to have the impact that she needs to have this. There are enemies that are very much bullet resistance as well, and you want her to have this ability because when she's out in the field, she needs to do her damage of being a heavy hitting damage dealer, and she needs to do it effectively. And when you're up against units like the Twins zombies or the SWAT zombie, you want to make sure that she's able to have some bullet pen to do damage to those creatures, those zombies. So all in all, it is very necessary for her character. in order for her to complete her role as a sniping damage dealer. Last on my list, and again, this is a really hard list to pick, but I'm gonna go with Andrea. And Andrea's special ability also got reworked. It used to be that her critical attacks would fire, set the enemy on fire. That's since been reworked to that critical attacks now fire exploding arrows. And Andrea is a weak character in my opinion. I wish she was strong. I think she looks really cool, but she's weak for a couple of reasons. And she really needs these exploding arrows to be of any viable use whatsoever. So to explain myself, she's weak for a couple of reasons. One is that she has a very slow rate of attack. I think she's got the slowest ranged attack in the game. She just fires super slowly. Two, there's no heavy hitting damage to kind of counter that. Usually if you have someone who's going to fire slowly or hit something slowly, they're going to hit it hard. She doesn't hit as hard as Polina. She doesn't hit as hard as Charlotte. So there's no damage to counterbalance that. So what this does, the exploding arrow does cause splash damage to nearby zombies, not within a huge radius, but a little bit of a radius. That's great. The crit damage itself is, it's good. If you can stack enough of it, but it's not enough to make an impact. But if you're a big Andrea fan, then you know that you really need those exploding arrows. Otherwise, she's just not doing anything really. And she gets outshined by, I don't know, I think pretty much any other ranged unit in the game, just about. So except for characters like Collector and Austin and whatnot. That wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you think I missed out on something, or if I undersold something or oversold something, I'd be curious to know. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.